Ever in search of good news to report, Joseph W. Brady updates Spring Valley Lake developments.
I think on the good news front, the Spring Valley Lake Association just completed their election this past Saturday or a week ago. Mr. Ponce and Mrs. Romero were incumbents and they got reelected. Brad Lettner, who had been on the board before but had to leave because of work issues, got elected. So I think that it shows, after you look at the November 3rd election with the CSD and you look at this election, people really do have their minds, and we're a little divided. Last week, the association held its first open forum. They had, I believe, 58 people because they had socially distanced at the community center. And Brian Bickert led it with Brian Hurst and Al Logan and Bill Scott. Joanne Romero spoke. Robert Reed did not speak, but I got to say one thing. Robert retired last Saturday, so he's no longer on the board. And I was really pleased, and I really hope that people remember this, that it was Robert that came to the board about 6 months ago with the idea that said, if you're going to buy the country club, and we have this debt for the water that we bought, because we had a bunch of water we had to buy a couple of years ago. And to get that water vote, that took 66% of the homeowners in order to do it. So that got through. So we know we can get the vote for the golf course if the business plan is correct and delineates what I think everybody needs to know. So Robert came with this idea about 6 months ago, and he called me. He said, what do you think if we package a loan? We can get a loan at a lot better interest rate than we did before. We can get a bigger bang for our buck. We can improve the park, the community center park. We can put some money in the lake. We can pay off the water debt. We can buy the country club. We can pay for the improvements, and we can do it under one loan that really doesn't cost us anymore. Thought, wow, that's okay, Robert. So how did you do that? So Robert reached out to Brian Bickert, the president, and Brian has found a company that's willing to lend at, I believe, 4.5% with, I think, one point, where the payment is not going to choke us and will be palatable, and we're going to be able to reduce the debt on the water and take care of a whole bunch of other projects at one time. So I think that's real positive. I want to personally thank Brian Hurst for acknowledging Robert for doing that. Robert's like me. Robert challenges the status quo. Robert's very passionate. He is very passionate about veteran affairs. He's been on the board before. He's been a board president. And so with Robert, I understand Robert and I love Robert and I know how passionate he is. But I know with some people, they get a little challenged by what he does. So Brian Hurst, I want to thank you, and I really hope that the board continues to acknowledge his work long after he's gone, because Robert does know a lot of people, and he has won every election he has ever been in, and I don't think he's ever lost, and I think that says a lot. So getting to the program, the meeting lasted about an hour and a half. I'd say on 1 to 10 for the first one. So this was their first deal that they had done. I gave them about a 6. I think there were some hiccups. I think that there were some discussions that might have gotten off point a little bit. But at the end of the day, it looks like the increased cost to us as a homeowner is about $20 per month to have the association buy the country club. I think that the board's going to need to do a whole lot better job improving the decrease in home values. They used a golf course down Chino Hills. I had suggested to them in a written document about 2 months ago that they really list out a whole bunch of golf courses in California that are similar to ours in master plan communities. So people really do have an idea of what can happen. I believe, Terry, that there's been about 1,400 golf courses closed around the country that have gone brown. And so I think if people understand that while let's say I didn't live on the golf course, okay, it's going to have an impact to my home value because the golf course and the lake are considered amenities to Spring Valley Lake. But more important, Spring Valley Lake is not only an amenity to Spring Valley Lake and its residents, it's the only private country club between Ontario and Las Vegas. And to me, it's a regional asset. So the board's going to do a couple more of these open forums. They're very close to signing the purchase and sale agreement. They did acknowledge what the price is. The price is $2 million. So the price of the water they put on was about $5 million. You can agree to disagree. There's 977 acre feet of water. I think water right now is trading for between $4,500 and $5,000 an acre foot. So if you got to 1,000 acre feet at $5,000, that's $5 million. At the end of the day today, we can only use 55% of that through the ramp down. So the water is a great asset, but you really can't sell it, because if you sell it, you had to go out and get makeup water. So I think the board overall did a great job. At the end of the day, I think they have to have a ironclad written business plan that goes through, how this is going to work. I will say this, and it may not be popular. I am not in favor of, and I said this to Alfred Logan and to Brian Bickert and to Brian Hurst and to Bill Scott, I'm not in favor of the general manager of the country club working underneath the general manager of the association. I don't care who the personalities are. I think that the country club is a standalone asset underneath the association. It should have a board of directors, not a golf committee. They talked about a 10-member golf committee. If you want to act like a private country club, you have to call it like a private country club. So I think that manager should work directly with the board, the country club board, and have a person there that deals directly with the board at the association. So it has nothing to do with Alfred Logan. It has nothing to do with anybody else. I personally hope that David Ruzzi stays there. I have a lot of respect for David. I've never had a disagreement with him. I think that he's been kind of caught. He moved up here. His wife moved up. He has two great kids. He's a real nice guy. I think that he got sold a bill of goods. And I've also told that to Phil Steitzko with Club Corp. I don't think that they ever told him the truth. They claimed they did, but it doesn't matter. So that's one thing that I really disagree with, and I could not. But they have to have a business plan that they can come to the residents and say, here it is. This is how it's going to operate. This is what the costs are going to be. We're going to put a fence around it on day one. We're going to go in and do all this work and get it done and be done, rather than saying, well, we're going to go do these improvements as a cash flow, because that will never work. And unless they're willing to commit to do all that work up front, I can't buy into it, and I don't think anybody else. The club has a lot of work that needs to be done. It's got great bones, as we would say in the construction business, but it needs a lot of work, and I think it's a great asset. So I really do hope that the board continues to move in a positive direction, and I think that Brad Lettner will be a great board member. I think that Brad looks at things from a business standpoint. He also looks at it because he's from the military. So I think he's going to bring a great added look at things. I think that he might challenge the status quo. Brad, I love you. We've always, the thing I've always loved about Brad is Brad will challenge the status quo whether you're a friend or not, and that's why I respect him. So so I think that there's some great things to come.
To further update SVL developments, Joseph W. Brady is asked, what's the QT on the MAC and the CSD?
Well, Terry, the county very smartly, and I think this came about even prior to Supervisor Cook coming on in after the election that, we won't go on into. So they put together, they took applications for the Municipal Advisory Council Committee, the MAC. And they picked 5 people, and they've got a chairman, and that chairman's Dennis Verhagen. So I think having that group is going to accelerate the communications, hopefully, between the county and the association. I had a friend of mine call me the other night. He's in real estate, lives on in there, and he was very concerned about it. And I said to him, I think this is the best thing since sliced bread. And I suggested to Dennis in a document probably yesterday that if they're meeting once a month, hopefully they will, that our water bill comes out every 2 months. Why don't you then put in what you're doing every 2 months into that water bill, which makes you then have to get something done. Okay, if you have to report out, you then are forced to do something versus, oh, well, we had a meeting. Well, the homeowners don't care about your meeting. They care about, the streets got done. That was $12.5 million deal. And that was facilitated through that group. But, what are they doing with the drainage boxes? What are they going to do with the entryway monument? What are they going to do? Are they going to possibly, extend the sidewalk down Ridgecrest past Pebble Beach? I call that the sidewalk to nowhere. Could they possibly landscape that entire wall in that area so as people drive down Ridgecrest or Paiute, it gives a nicer feel? I mean, we are a master plan community, and there's a lot of competition. So I congratulate Dennis. He's got Graham Carr on there. He's got Bo Gurley. He's got Mary Stapp, and Bill Walters is on there. But they've got 5 really good people, and they picked Dennis as a chairman. I think they picked the right guy, and he's passionate, and so I congratulate all of them. And I know Steve Samaras over at CSA 64. Steve is a really good guy. He's got great employees. So I think this is a win-win. So out of the election, that some people didn't like and some people did like, I think came something really good. So at the end of the day, Congrats.